All right.
Fantastic.
Can I just introduce Nikolaj? He's got a fever.
Yeah.
I just got a little bit cold sitting outside for an hour. And I forgot that LA was actually super cold.
Yeah. So when he stalls and Ken has a
Yes, it was a great film.
It felt like Denmark.
Yeah, exactly.
So I love the sense of scale and depth of field in these, some of the vistas, the cinematography, the rugged landscape was just so stunning. And then also, that's what we were talking a little bit before about David Lean and epic films. This has such a beautiful epic feel to it. It's just so wonderful and gorgeous to look at. I want to talk a little bit about your details about your inspiration.
Yeah, I mean, I was certainly inspired by David Lean. We were looking here in the DOP, was looking a lot at films, sort of the big grand old epics from the like 40s and 50s and 60s. Usually we go to the 70s, you know, for inspiration, but this time we went a little further back. And something that David Lean was, especially his films, was able to was to marry the sort of great scope with the very intimate, complex characters,
Yes.
which I thought was one of the things that we tried to do with this one as well. And we used some of his actually tricks in terms of like photography, and
What
which
were
was
some of the
interesting.
tricks?
Well, some of the tricks. One of the tricks is to have a very big depth of field, like in almost all the images, even when you go close. You're not on a sort of long lens, we're always wide lens. And that gives you the feeling that even when you're sort of in intimate little scenes, you still have a feeling of the surroundings, a feeling of the heat, a feeling of the sort of nature and landscapes.
And can I add that we will also have having the luxury of shooting the exact spot where Ludwig built his house,
Wow.
which is completely unique. I mean,
And it's empty like that now? It was an empty heath?
no, it's not an empty heat. There's a little, what do you call it, a shrine or a thingy. But we could work around that. But we had to bring the heath ourselves. The heather itself, we couldn't touch it, the heather. So we had to bring it from Germany in big plastic bags.
I mean, at least the stuff that we were stepping on, we had to bring. But of course, the business were there.
That must have been great. So being able to be where this all happened, as an actor, Mads, how was that? Did you kind of feel it as you were acting?
I'm a professional liar, so it doesn't matter to me. But as a human being, as an individual, you get as we're seeing then, you get the wind of history. And so that was important, but as an actor, I mean, I've been fighting giant scorpions so I can do that. But as a person, it was mind-blowing and fantastic to be there, right? And it adds to the authenticity of the story. But as an actor,
Yeah. Some people call this a Nordic Western.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I was a little surprised by it at first. I didn't sort of make out, I didn't intend to do a Western. I was intending to do a historical epic. But of course, it's so obvious that when you look at it and even some of the imagery, it's totally a Western. So now I get it. But I think if I had tried to do a Western, it probably would have been a little pastiche, you know, like trying too hard to make a Western. So in a way, I'm glad that's not what we set out to do.
no, we didn't. But I mean, I'm surprised you didn't see it because we got a landscape, we got horses, we got guns. Now it's not a Western. It's not a Western. Yeah. But there's nothing wrong with the Westerns because it's pioneers, you know, stepping on ground so nobody stepped on before you.
And this was adapted from a novel. So how closely did you adhere to the novel?
In many ways, quite close in that the novel she wrote these wonderful characters, right? I mean, I remember reading the book and falling in love. The first character I fell in love with was not, he knows this, I always say this because it wasn't really Ludwig. I fell in love with Emma Moose, the girl, she was the first character that I really sort of gravitated.
And this is where I leave the building.
And then, yeah, and then it was like some of the others, and maybe you came a little bit late. No, I mean, she was the first one, and just like every character, she fleshed them out so beautifully. They had these wonderful character arcs and these sort of quirks, and I just felt, you know, this is wonderful. It can be a wonderful story. Then the plot wasn't quite there. She was more interested in nature and how potatoes grow. You know, and there were a lot of chapters about potatoes growing. And I thought, okay, I can do this film, and it'll be like a really great award circuit, like super art house film. Or I can throw me and the co-writer can slightly up the drama. And but I mean, even in her novel, Shingle was there as an antagonist. It's not like we grabbed that out of the blue. There were certain scenes, but yeah, we changed some of the plot.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't read the book. But I agree on the fact that And My Moves is a piece in the puzzle that the film needs and my character needs. There is a woman. There's a villain. He's a king, but there's not a child. And when she enters his life, everything changes.
Your performance was calibrated with so much nuance because your character was stoic, and yet at the same time he was proud, he was magnetic, and he was soulful too, and softened. And sometimes all of that came across at once. So I was thinking about your other roles, and it seems like your style is less is more. That's kind of your.
Depending on the film, and
Sure.
the co-writer of this film he's called Anders Thomas Jensen, and I don't think you can call anything I've ever done in his films less is more. It's insane dark comedies where we go way beyond what's legal. Something you can't even put on a big station theater. So that's a different approach. But I grew up with Buster Keaton. I love Buster Keaton for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is that I could throw myself into his face and project whatever I felt. Some people say nothing happens. A lot of other people say a lot of things are happening. And I'm in love with those kind of films where you actually let the movie do the business, not the talky thing, right? And I think in many ways it's back to scratch. Let the image work for you. So when you get the chance, you have to dive in there. And Nikolaj was definitely a fan of epic films, and so was I. So we went for it.
Yeah, no, I just want to add, I think one of the amazing things about your performance in this, as I've said that a couple of times before, is that in most films where a character changes profoundly, there's always that one sort of dramatic sequence or moment that happens and that changes him, and you suddenly realize there's really none of that here. It's like very subtle, but if you look at him at the beginning of the film and at the end of the film, he's a completely different man. And I think that just speaks so much to your extreme talent that you can take a character through that much of an illusion with only showing the tiniest little bits of evolving.
But we also have to agree on that.
Sure.
We have to agree that it happens on page 58 and 78 and so forth. Little bits of the puzzle. We have to agree. And if you don't trust each other, you can't go there.
Speaking of trusting each other, so you worked together on a royal affair. 10 years went by, you worked together again. So did you feel like you kind of fit right back into the role? Was there a shorthand between you? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, we became friends. I don't know why, actually.
We have nothing in common.
We didn't call me for 10 years. No, but it was kind of like I don't know what the word is, high school.
Summer camp.
A summer camp when we did the Royal Fair. And then we grew up, got mature, and then this film came our way, and it was like starting from there. we didn't have to start over. It was like, here we go. This is what we want to do. And we did not have to feel each other out. And is that too much? If I say this, so we could just, without insulting each other, we could be very honest with each other. And so it felt like starting from completely where we left off.
Picking up where you left off. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So, would you say that Mads is kind of a muse for you because you worked together before?
Muse? The answer is yes. Sitting right next to me. I would say this which is the most honest answer I can give you. I've made 6 films, and the 2 absolute best films were the ones I made with Mads. And so, you know, there's a reason for that. You know?
So when you wrote it, were you picturing him?
Oh yeah, from the first, like, even before I started writing the script, I was like, this character is Mads or nothing. And I called him up and said, we have this book, we have this idea, you have to play this or there's no reason to do it. And you were like, okay, that's a little bit a lot of pressure. Maybe write a good script first, you know, like.
Yeah, but that was not the entire pitch. But the pitch was this, hey, what are you doing? So, nothing. Okay, there's this guy growing potatoes. You want to do it?
How could you say no?
Is there more in there?
Riveting, yeah.
Yeah, it's got it, fries, is it?
I had sweet potatoes.
How much of a twist is there?
So I heard that this film was very personal for you. You had read the novel, you had a family, and tell us a little bit about that.
Well, in very sort of briefly, I mean, I'm 51, but I had my first child 3.5 years ago, so quite late in life. And that was exactly the same time when he was born, was when I read the novel. And I could see the idea of a man who was maybe a little too driven in life, a little bit too much about the work, and not so much about a lot of other stuff. I could certainly recognize myself in that, and having had a son, and realizing that life is about, basically right now I feel that that's all life's about as the kids. So I could see that there's a really point in film for a man who doesn't love anybody and who doesn't realize anything. And all he has is just like the urge to become something and the conquest and the verb, and then he finds, oh, wait a minute, there's so much more to life. And I thought I could tell that truthfully, because I had just, I'm not saying I was like Ludwig, but I could tell that truthfully because I had kind of been in a similar situation.
Yeah, you had that kind of epiphany.
Yeah.
If I may add, I mean, if you made this film 5-6 years ago, and my moose would just have been someone in the film. She would never have been that important piece of the puzzle that she is now.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Right.
She was a great
Yes,
actor.
yes.
Not if you're under 16.
Get some kids. That's the advice.
The concept of like the chaos versus order too, I thought was really intriguing.
Yeah.
Because obviously there wasn't much else to recommend that character.
Yes.
But what he was saying about chaos was intriguing.
Yeah, I mean the chaos versus order thing was something that we brought to the script that wasn't in the novel, but we felt it was so thematically sort of like embedded in the novel but she hadn't written it out as such. But we just felt, okay, this is about a man who really believes he has control of his life. He will do this and this and this, and then the following things will happen. He will get his goals. And then there's the antagonist who actually is more kind of spot on in terms of what life is really like, which is like, honestly, life is chaos and you never know what the fuck's going to happen. So it was interesting to have an antagonist who was actually a little more sort of aware of like life's truths than the main character was. And we thought that was an interesting thing.
Did you have a lot of discussions about it before you started shooting or even during the shoot?
About what, sorry?
The whole idea of like the chaos versus.
No, the chaos thing was like, doesn't matter. No, so here's the trick. So we as actors, we have to be smarter than the characters. I mean, if you play Einstein, you have to be smarter than Einstein, which is super annoying. But you have to be smart in the sense that you have to see the flaws that he didn't see, right? I'm not gonna be smarter when it comes to science, but I gotta be smarter when I have to give him life. And in this case, we have a man who is, we didn't want the entire film to be about the external problems that was coming upon him. We wanted him to create his own problems. We wanted him to be an obstacle in his life. We wanted him to create the drama in the film. So he has plenty of chances to go left, but he chooses right. And there's many times we want him to just, don't do that. Please, keep the fucking food. But he
Just take the
can't.
money.
But he can't. He's so righteous. And great to be righteous, but not that much. Right? And so we wanted him to be an obstacle himself. Because you can almost make a film about some bad people doing something to good people. And we wanted him to be in the gray zone. And also for that reason, we wanted him to be not necessarily super likable until page 68. And so we were sticking to our guns, and it was difficult because you get fed up being him and watching him, and we just looked at each other and say, page 68. So yeah, you have to trust each other to go that far with that. Yeah.
What were, you were dealing with, bringing the land in, bringing in the heath and all that stuff, what were the biggest challenges in making the film? You were making it in Denmark, so it was a little different than like, we talked about making a film in Prague.
We did shoot some of it in Prague.
Oh, you
actually.
did?
Yeah,
Okay.
We only shot the outdoor stuff in Denmark, and the rest we shot in Prague and Germany.
Okay.
Yeah, so we traveled quite a lot. Yeah. I would say honestly, there was a lot of challenges like on every movie, but I think the biggest challenge, but also the biggest joy, was working with Lina, who plays Anna Moose, because she's so wonderful and she's so much herself, and she's so unspoiled, but she also couldn't remember her lines. Like we had to say, yeah, she could not remember any of her
And
lines.
she didn't speak Danish.
She was from Sweden.
Ah.
So whenever I was trying to direct her, she just looked at me like with these blank looks, and like she couldn't say anything that I said, and we had to have a translator, and it was very tough. But it was thankfully it was also really gratifying because she was so fun to be with, and when she did deliver, she was awesome. But it did. I mean, whenever she was on set, everything took 10 times as long.
How old was she?
It was 8, 9?
No, she was
Seven.
yeah.
Oh,
7 and then
really
came
young.
8, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to open it up to the audience. There's a question right there, yes.
Yes. First of all, great movie. And I wanted to ask Mads a question. I mean, you're one of the best actors that are around. I think everyone would agree with that. I think you're one of those actors that has a range across so many different variety of films, and you do an excellent work. And I think most filmmakers will tell you that the movies are great because you're in it. But I'm wondering, when you look at your own performances, are there particular films that you find that when you look at it, so those I'm particularly proud of, and why?
Did everybody hear that question? Yes.
Yes, and that'll be like a number of reasons and a number of films for different reasons. There will be certain things I've done that was like, can't go there, that's dumb, so let's try it. And then I was happy and nobody else liked it. So I grew a little. There'll be films that everybody loves that I'm like, yeah, I like it, but it wasn't something special for me. Yeah, so the answer is yes. But I'm not gonna sit here and name certain films because I don't see my career.
You could name it.
I don't have.
You got a chance now, man.
But it doesn't matter. You're gonna call me in 10 years. I don't see my career as something that has a goal. I've always been. It's gonna sound super pretentious, but I've always been very simple about. The thing I'm doing now is the most important thing I'm ever going to do. This is going to be the best fucking film in history. happen because then I'm gonna get a chance to do it again, right? So for me, it doesn't, I don't want it to be stepping stones towards the goal. I want it to be very important what we do now. And then we don't succeed, then we give it another shot. And that will be eventually be a career, as opposed to aim for a career you will never get, and you'll be disappointed with everything you've done. So I'm just happy with everything I've done, even the things that wasn't that good. And this one was a good one.
You'll say.
Yes, right here.
So I have a question. Like today, we spent a great day watching a lot of great Danish movie, and you, yeah, and you've joined a lot of like international projects, especially for Mr. Mads, and like for British movies, American movies. So what do you think is the special point for Danish movies? And what's your special experience, like the difference between your experience in Danish movie projects and like international projects?
Did everybody hear that?
What's the difference between Danish movies and international films that I've been in? Well, I don't, I just had a conversation with very few people tonight about favorite films, and I went straight to Kieslowski, and I went to Decalogue, I don't know if you know those films. And it's like, there is obviously a special taste in Danish films, but it doesn't matter to the world. But it matters to me because I'm Danish. So it's me, for me it's home. For me it's where I feel at home. These are my stories, this is my language, right? But the work itself is not that different. I might say good morning to 500 people in America and 50 people in Denmark. So there's a big difference when it comes to that. I can call Nick in the middle of the night. I'm nervous about tomorrow. I have an idea. We'll talk about it, or he will say, shut up, go to sleep. But I can't do that with an American director. So there is a difference, but I approach it the same way. I've got to find the honesty within the framework we're working in. Marvel film, Doctor Strange, he's fucking crazy big, but I've got to find the honesty in there. Promised Land, I've got to find the honesty in there. What was the question?
So it's like,
You already answered it, I think.
yeah. And also for like for director.
No, for directors, very different.
It's very
The big difference, of course, is that over here, there's a different system, and it's private money. It's a lot of money, not for me, but to get the movie made and big stars. And so the big difference for me, as I experienced it, was that I didn't have a lot of power. I didn't have, like, I'm used to having final cut, final say. I can cast the movie that I want. You can do whatever I want. I can shoot it like I want. You don't. It's not. If you do a studio film, it's almost like you're there to execute what other people want, and you just have to execute it as well as you can. And I didn't feel comfortable with that. It was really weird for me to just like, oh wait a minute, I have nothing to say. I just need to do what you guys tell me, and I get like 10 pages of notes every day. Oh, the socks need to be red and not blue. Like, okay, whatever. In the end, you kind of like to stop caring a little. So and then going back to that, Michael, such a joy being sort of captain of the ship again and being able to do the film that you envisioned. So as a director, it's very different. And I'm hearing that from a lot of European directors actually. They kind of like, they come here and then they run home like completely broken and scared. And then we go back as well.
But true. I mean, there is a big difference. If ask a Danish actor to be in a film, they will say, okay, so you're playing this guy, and keep the accent. The accent is great. They will tell the director, like, I love what you did. Can you come and do it over here? But can you change yourself completely? And that's it.
There's so many people involved in the process.
Sure.
Yeah.
And there's so much at stake,
Yeah.
I mean, comparably, this is a $7 million movie, and when you're doing a studio film, it's like anywhere from, the one that I did didn't cost insane, it cost like 40, but it's like from 40 to $200 million, and you're doing a $200 million film, it's a product. It's really not a piece of art, right? It's like, it's meant to just make money, and I don't think I could do that again. It's just, it feels like just doing a commercial, so
Yeah.
it's weird.
Does Danish government, give money to the?
Yeah,
Everything's
partly
funded.
fund, yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is funded, one degree or the other. And yeah, so it's a luxury thing to be in Denmark. We make about 23 films a year. Some are being seen by 200 people, some are being seen by a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so we kind of try to split it to see if there's anything out there that might not hit the jackpot when it comes to audience, but artistically. And so we try to, divide wind and weather, as we say.
It's interesting, yes, right there.
So in both the film we just saw and the one before that, there were newcomers.
The one before was
A Royal Affair, yeah.
Royal Affair.
There were newcomers in key roles who delivered absolutely stellar performances. Is there anything in particular that you do as a director or you as a lead actor to help bring that out? And second part to my question, jeg købte den her i Danmark. Må jeg bede jer om at skrive under?
Oh, sorry.
Yes, I'll sign that one. It's called The Starting.
So did everybody hear the first part of that question?
Is there anything you, as a director, that newcomers in both films,
Yeah,
anything
I think
you do
this is-
specifically to make them feel at home?
Yeah, but I think it's just like, is there a reason for it? I think the simple answer to that is that having Mads in your film, years already you have really sort of massive talent here, and this gives you a chance to populate the other parts with somebody you're excited about that are not necessarily stars or that are complete newcomers, and it'll be exciting for an audience to watch somebody new. And for instance, in Royal Affair, it worked really well because we found Alicia Vikander, and now she's obviously a huge star. She won an Oscar, but back then nobody knew who she was, and we found in this one we kind of also cast it with relatively sort of not very known actors around Mads. If I hadn't had Mads, I would probably have to balance it more with a star here and a star there, but Mads gives it so much weight, so I have the luxury to do that.
Well, I had the luxury the very first thing I ever did was, before I did my first feature film, I did a short film while I was in school. And I had the luxury to work with my biggest hero in Denmark, and I'm not going to tell you his name, because he turned out to be the biggest asshole I met. And I was just watching him trying to destroy the film, and making me feel uncomfortable, and everybody else around me feel uncomfortable. And he was so good. He was so fucking good. And I was like, why? Why did you do that? And I swore an oath to myself, like, if anyone ever, at any point, think I'm kind of half good, I'm going to be the nicest guy ever. Because the scene turned out bad. He turned out bad. Everything turned out bad. If he had just helped me a little, it would have been great. Eventually we found each other, and I love him, and he's passed away now. So I'm not gonna ditch him because he was fantastic in many ways, and there was a reason why he did like that. I'm not gonna go there. But so it's very important that if that person is good, you might be good, and she might be good, and then maybe the film is good. So it's also an investment. It's a little selfish to make other people good.
Yeah, and it's like you're collaborating on something that makes
Sure.
everything better.
And you don't want anybody standing on the set for the first time feeling uncomfortable. That's insane.
There was a question right behind that person. Yes, right.
Hello. Hi. Thank you both for being here. To Matt, you're so cool. Just wanted to say that. I could never be. Anyways,
You're super cool.
my question for both of you is, what was the most challenging aspect of the film and how did you overcome it? And then what was your fondest memory?
My fondest memory, I think pertains probably to that. We were staying in these small apartments that we had when we were shooting out, and it turned out our apartments had kind of balconies facing each other's apartment. So we both sort of like, unfortunately, we were both smoking at times. So we would both sort of always eat and shout at each other across the balcony, like, so what about the scene tomorrow, And that was just every single night we did that. And it was really fun. It was like so fun to do that.
Sounds like a good
Most
time.
challenging?
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember anymore. I mean, it was challenging working with the kid. It's always challenging, but it's also like a gift from heaven. Especially for an actor, I would say, a little more challenging for a director. If you just follow her lead, you might end up being better than you thought you would ever be because you forget yourself, which is good for an actor. For a director, it can be frustrating, right? But I think that the best moment was when we had there's one of the most happy, the only happy scene in the film, where everybody's happy, we're drinking snaps, we're having a great time, and it ends on the note of her screaming, "We got pancakes!" And it's not in the script. But the situation was, there was pancakes in front of her, and that's what she said. And you gotta follow her lead. It was insane and funny. Because she was just getting bored with the scene. Pancakes! And then you went, cut.
Yeah, we gotta use that. Yeah, exactly.
I heard that you disagree with W.C. Fields, who says you should never work with kids or animals, right?
Yeah, I think he was lying though, because he was always really good with kids and animals.
Yeah.
Right. I think that was just him being funny. When he stabbed kids in his film, he always stabbed them with forks and shit. Yeah. No, you have to work with them because I mean there is a tendency that we kind of go in our own bubble and we focus so much on what we have to do, and we choke it, we strangle it, right? And if you just relax a little and follow the lead of a kid or a dog, all of a sudden you do something natural, and it's a good lesson.
I love that. All right, we're gonna end on that note, because we have to wrap up, and I love that.
Is that the end note?
Yeah.
Did I just end on the word animal?
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Nikolaj.